Last month I said in a video that where Saturn is transiting in the spring could easily end what I then called Joe Biden's honeymoon. Challenging Saturn transits have a way of making things difficult for anyone, though in the case of us ordinary citizens, if we just stay within ourselves and work on the problem, a lot of the suffering can be abated, and in fact, these Saturn periods can be very useful toward growth in our own lives. Indeed, some would argue accurately from my knowledge and perspective that these Saturn cycles are absolutely pivotal, but for politicians, even if they too can benefit from working away at the problem, it all too easily can run away from them and turn into the kind of situation that hurts their public standing, which in politics is anything from damaging to lethal. In the last video I mentioned that the Saturn hit is to the 12th house Mars, so pandemic snags might become a problem. Since the 12th is a government administration house, perhaps that is what it'll be, or whatever other related thing could pop up. But to be honest, on the pandemic front, especially in the short term, things are looking pretty good, and by extension so is Joe. So what else could this be? Well, I did mention that he should of course be careful with his own health, as on the personal level the 12th is definitely health, and this becomes especially important in that Saturn starts to irritate Mars by square in mid-April, but a month or so later Uranus jumps on the bandwagon and irritates by opposing from the 6th, also of health. Still, and though I could be wrong about this, since all astrology options are always best left open, I have a sense that Joe's health is often underestimated. He may not be as vital as he was a decade ago, but to me he looks able and strong, and to be honest, he looks like a model citizen and what a president ought to look like, unlike the previous goofball we had in charge. Joe's 8th house stationary Jupiter is a tremendous asset to his health by conferring protection and longevity. So then, what else could this be? I'm beginning to sense a storm that seems to be gaining some momentum, and it relates to the immigration border issue, and increasingly it also relates to the large number of young children that are being housed by the US government. Astrologically, to correlate immigration, you go to the 9th house of foreign affairs, and when you think borders, you go to Saturn, which relates to a country's laws, limits, and defense system. Now, Pluto, as the most challenging planet in Joe's chart, is a resident in that house and is currently transiting opposite his Jupiter, just as it already was last year during election season, but now continues to oppose until next year, and in the shorter term stations opposite Jupiter end of April, early May, practically guaranteeing this topic will be front and center. Meanwhile, the Saturn square to Mars is enough to describe government security concerns, Saturn squaring a natal planet and thereby causing headaches to the recipient, Joe Biden. And notice the Mars is in the 12th, and since the 12th is where I would place all major illegalities, the place where the former guy dwells and traffics, the 12th fits the topic of illegal immigration, and because Mars rules the 5th, it brings in the children. So what to make of all this? Bottom line is that Joe's spring, with challenges from Saturn, Uranus, and Pluto, is likely to be a lot more difficult than his summer, when these three planets aren't as harsh. And in addition, the entry of Jupiter into Pisces mid-May and into late July is going to be very good for Joe, because Pisces is friendly to Scorpio, and from those early degrees it makes a nice sextile to his moon. And I'll end this one by saying that come what may, I think Joe is going to be okay, because once again, in contrast to the former guy, Neptune is his ace ally now and for years to come, as it will be transiting through the late Pisces degrees, which happen to be very friendly to Joe, since from there it trines the Scorpio planets. This guarantees that whatever happens, his popularity should remain sufficiently strong to maintain his command. So I'll finish by saying, and this time without being sarcastic, couldn't happen to a nicer guy.